Welcome back to the Mark David Show, where the truth is a conspiracy. All right, we've had a great show so far. Talked a lot about European situation, how it relates, how the banksters are stealing you blind, robbing you blind. Okay, now I'm going to get into, before I move on to New World Order news, I wanted to do something different. I want to talk really fast about something that's happening right in your backyard, Idaho. Something you should know about if you don't already. We're going to talk about some local news here on the Mark David Show.
This area grows a third of the lentils in the U.S.
The University of Idaho is seeking funding.
The skyrocketing gas prices in the valley.
All right, things are happening right here in your backyard. You may not have known about this. Did you know? China is being basically handed to, it basically is taking over Idaho. You've probably heard about this. Some people are screaming about this. I heard some people talking about this. I thought they were going crazy, ranting. So I did a little investigative research. I talked about this a little bit. I talked about Mr. Dirk Kempthorne. He says a lot of great stuff. He says a lot of contradictory stuff too. But this is what I'm going to talk about. I want you to know just how much and how deep China is into the state of Idaho, particularly this area. Okay? Now, first of all, let's talk about who Butch Otter is. I'm gonna let you listen to his own words. A little bit about his own qualifications, why he is where he is, and what he's doing. This is our governor of Idaho, Butch Otter. Governor of Chinaho, Butch Otter.
I can't tell you how many trade missions I've been on. I've been on a lot of them. I've been on every continent and in every hemisphere. In my career, the last 12 years that I spent with the J.R. Simplot Company, I was the president of Simplot International and ran the international division. So in 1986, when I won the lieutenant governorship and became the lieutenant governor in 1987, in his first State of the State message, Governor Andrus said that he knew the talents of his lieutenant governor and he was going to use them. And what he was talking about was obviously finding marketplace shelf space for all of Idaho's products, just like I had done for Simplot.
Now, that's Butch Otter, the governor of Chinaho. By the way, Chinaho is trademarked by the Mark David Show. I mean, not really trademarked, but you heard it here first. Make sure you remember that. Mark David Show. Anyway, Butch Otter, governor of Chinaho. Now, I'm getting to why I'm calling it that. You might be kind of half offended, like, oh, okay, come on, radical Rush Limbaugh radio. Next person who calls me Rush Limbaugh. Okay, listen. Going on, you need to understand. Follow me on this story, please, global listeners and local listeners joining my global listeners. You need to understand that I'm going somewhere with this. What is Governor Butch Otter, the governor of Chinaho, what is his plan for this region? Let's ask him.
Let me give you just one idea that we suggested to them.
China.
Was that they should come over with an investment and build some grain silos and peas and lentil silos on the Port of Lewiston, which can be offloaded on ocean-going barges or ocean-going containers and then shipped to China or shipped to any other country that they want to spend it to. But the important thing here is in order to fill those silos, they're going to have to pre-season contract with our wheat growers, with our pea and lentil growers. And that's going to give a steady market, a predictable market to our wheat growers, to our pea and lentil growers, especially up in the Palouse country of Idaho. And sure, they're making the investment there, but they're wanting to control their own destiny as much as they can. And as long as they build those at the Port of Lewiston, and as long as they use our shipping out of the Port of Lewiston, that makes me very happy because it's going to create a lot of jobs. More importantly, all those jobs will turn into careers.
And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that idea, right? Let China build grain silos on the Port of Lewiston. That's Governor Butch Otter, governor of Chinaho's idea. What is wrong with that? Okay, let's dig a little deeper into this story. So, this is from archive.newsmax.com, and it talks about Hutchison Whampoa. That's the name of the company that monopolizes ports in 14 countries for the people of China, for the People's Republic of China. Okay? It's owned by the Li family, particularly Li Daxing, the richest person of Asian descent in the world and the ninth richest person in the world with an estimated wealth of $25.5 billion. Basically, they're the Rockefellers of Asia, right? Okay? They get monopolies. They are actually monopolizing ports all over the world. Okay? There's no reason... Okay. Moving on. There's no reason to assume that what Butch Otter is saying does not mean that these people are going to have a monopoly on one of these strategically most important ports anywhere around here. Don't underestimate the port of Lewiston. Okay? Okay, there's this country, Hutchison Whampoa, owned by the Rockefellers of China, the Lee family. It operates in 5 of the 7 busiest container ports in the world, handling 13% of the world's container traffic. It has scandals over the Panama Canal, in Canada, in Mexico, and all over the world. I mean, it is seizing ports everywhere. And you remember the scandal over the UAE controlling ports and the media coverage that got. This one's not getting the media coverage. Okay, so this is from Boise Weekly going on in this story, boiseweekly.com. And these are projects going underway in Chinaho. Okay? One Chinese-based company, Hoku Materials, has a facility under construction near Pocatello. The polysilicon manufacturer has hired local workers and its products will be exported to China. Sounds like what Butch Otter said. The plant is scheduled to open in early 2012. 2 other projects involving other Chinese companies or investors are also in the works: a fertilizer plant near Pocatello and a bus manufacturer. And as Butch Otter says, what is he interested in offering China? Right here. What's he going to offer them?
Reverse investment in Idaho. Now, what that means is Chinese money coming back to the United States. They want to make investments in Idaho in brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar, meaning, what did I just show you about? Meaning China's resources. Okay? Now, going on. Beyond, this is from the Boise Weekly. Bibiana Netterny, Marketing and Communication Administrator at the Idaho Department of Commerce, stressed that under U.S. law, foreign companies are required to hire local workers and cannot bring in foreign workers unless they are not qualified Americans. Additionally, every foreign worker must be approved for a work visa. All business, regardless of owner, must operate under local and state and federal law. So how will Chinaho get around that, you ask? According to the Idaho Statesman, According to the Idaho Statesman, you remember this story from last year. To build a self-contained city with all services included, it would be modeled after the special economic zones that currently exist in China and that China puts around the world. Now, I originally got to this story from dailypaul.com. And I want to explain to you something. This is not new. Okay, so let's wrap this story up real fast before I go to this clip here, okay? So where are we at in this story? Butch Otter, governor of Chinaho, wants to give China the port of Lewiston, okay? Build grain silos. But what that means is they're going to monopolize the port of Lewiston like they monopolized in 13 countries, okay? Under Idaho law, they have to hire local workers. But we already know below Boise, they're creating a free trade zone. Okay? Now let me explain. There is a documentary called Life in Debt. It's about Jamaica's loans from the IMF. I've pitched this documentary to you, my global listeners, many, many times. I'm pitching it to the local listeners too. I want you in tune to this. This will explain. This is a small, short piece of this clip from Life in Debt, and it will explain to you a little bit of the history behind what happens in these free trade zones. So listen up, please.
Miserable. It's like you're working under slavery.
Every Thursday, people get fired and them not taking on anybody to work in the next year.
And then they bring in the Chinese to back it up, to back up the Jamaicans. And they treat the Chinese better than us.
There are even more problems in the island's garment sector this evening, with production at one factory all but stalled.
Thursday, when our news team arrived, it seemed like a ticking bomb finally saw a chance to explode.
East Ocean Company brought in a lot of Asian workers, I think maybe up to 800 people.
These workers are brought in hundreds, and they live in what we consider to be a camp situation. So they're all housed in one place.
We were not allowed into one of the main factories, but our camera caught a glimpse of the interior. The Jamaican workers say the women who started coming in from earlier this month are given more overtime work and hence more money.
Them don't object to nothing because they are get paid in US. Meanwhile, Jamaican get paid in Jamaican currency.
Can the government afford this influx of foreign workers when the Great Free Zone promise was to alleviate those very same unemployment problems?
Obviously, we're trying to provide employment for Jamaicans, not Asians. They claim that they couldn't get the people in Jamaica with the skill level that they needed for that job.
If the government asks them to give us more, probably they would close down the factories and go to Mexico, because most of them gone to Mexico because them say they are cheaper labor.
You know, these companies are very aggressive to make profits, and they're accountable to their shareholders. So they basically just went, you know, they're in a position to move the production to areas that are, you know, cheaper for them.
I worked there for 15 years, and they fire me for low production. Say I'm not doing enough. They want me to draw 1,000 and I couldn't go up to it.
The free trade and NAFTA agreements have impacted initially very badly on Jamaica.
We've lost, I think, 18,000 jobs.
It's getting worse. More factory closing down.
Low-wage jobs do move or gravitate to low-wage areas. This is happening throughout the world, especially with the new order.
The garment factory on Marcus Garvey Drive has thrown over 400 workers into a tailspin.
2 weeks ago, the workers received a letter which stated that the factory would be closing temporarily for restructuring. Allegations flew that the Asian managers had dismantled and sold the factory equipment and packed their bags in preparation for a hasty departure. The factory will not reopen tomorrow, and the majority of workers have not been paid.
Okay, so that was a clip from the documentary Life in Debt about Jamaica's IMF loans. I recommend you watch it. Now, am I saying that Governor Butch Otter is saying he's going to turn a monopoly ownership of the Port of Lewiston to China like they do everywhere else in 13 countries? I'm not saying it's necessarily for sure going to happen. Am I saying that they're going to use free trade zones such as the one they're putting down below Boise already, oddly, to get around using U.S. workers who they can say, just like in Jamaica, quote unquote, you're not qualified, we're bringing in our own workers? Am I saying that's going to happen? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying you heard the investigation right here on the Mark David Show first. Okay, that's all the time we have on the Mark David Show today. I want to thank my global listeners and my local listeners. I'll tune in next week, 12:05 p.m., Tuesday, where the truth is a conspiracy.